My remarks today are really aimed at the students. When Professor Herndon asked me to speak about leadership, I realized it had been quite some time since I'd thought much about it, or at least what leadership meant to me on a personal level. On a regular basis, of course, in our newsroom, we're constantly talking about who's ready for promotion, what we can do to help someone develop into the next leadership role, what skills we need to balance what we already have. But there's more to leadership than that. When I was in college, when I was in your shoes, leadership, at least in our newsroom, was a fairly simple concept. Newspapers hadn't changed in ever. The people ahead of me demonstrated what it meant to succeed, and we followed until it was our time at the helm. We led by example, and a successful news day included filling the paper with accurate news, interesting features, and meeting deadline, and maybe getting a couple hours of sleep. Just about every student on campus the next day had the paper in hand. In a nutshell, newsroom leadership amounted to having good news instincts, an ability to get the story on time, strong writing skills, and the willingness to coax that out of others. We had one real deadline and only one means of delivering the news to our readers. Today, college journalism students need to have those skills and so much more. They aren't often rewarded with the sight of their peers reading the school newspaper. Instead, they wonder why their peers seem to care so little about campus news. To address this, college journalists spend just as much time trying to figure out how to reach their target audience as they do reporting the news. You're building and redesigning websites, talking about and creating apps, looking for ways to connect to your readers, hoping that doing so will lure those readers to the news you have so carefully put in writing, photographs, graphics, and video. You and students like you all over the country are experimenting with ways to create, display, and deliver news. It's not enough anymore to make the difficult decisions about whether or how to cover a controversial story. You now have to figure out how to feed that important story to your readers. In other words, you are doing exactly what those of us in professional newsrooms are doing. These changes are exciting and frustrating. They're enlightening and depressing at times. And in many ways, they have changed what leadership means. Newsroom leaders still need to have impeccable news credentials. But beyond the storytelling, they have to be creative, innovative risk takers. It's not enough to follow the footsteps of our predecessors because what worked for them no longer works. Change is coming faster and faster, and we're having to adapt more frequently than ever before. That's a tall order for leaders, and I've seen it consume many people in newsrooms, including my own. One senior editor I know escapes to the gym midday to work out, only to spend the time busily answering emails while on the elliptical. Another high-level editor is well known for her emails at all hours of the day and night, 2 or 3 in the morning on the weekends. These are people I admire, whose intellect, news acumen, and talent are awe-inspiring. At the same time, I'm not sure whether their leadership is something we want to emulate. As I thought about leadership in preparation for tonight, I considered who inspires me to improve myself and my work. I looked for people who inspire others and whose teams achieve as a result. I looked for people who were healthy and happy with their work-life balance. I thought of a company executive who gets up early every single day to work out, regardless of how little sleep that means he'll get. Or another who chooses to sleep instead of exercise because that's what she needs to restore herself every day to have that positive attitude. A longtime colleague has been a role model for me for 20 years because she, as a parent, instinctively knows when to place work first or family first. Another peer consistently reminds me what it means to take time to listen, no matter what pressing task is begging for his very limited time. And I've benefited greatly from supervisors who gave me the chance to make decisions and lead projects even when I was the least experienced person in the room. Supervisors, peers, and employees have inspired my leadership in many different ways at different times during my career. As my professional and personal circumstances changed, So have the people who inspire me. Yet there are some common themes. Listen carefully to others, but also to your instincts. Say yes and be willing to fail, but also be willing to let go of a pet project. Give others a chance to make decisions, but give them a safety net. Anticipate and react, but stay true to your mission and your ideals. And finally, find a confidant who supports you, but who is also willing to challenge your thinking. I'm also finding a new source of leadership, inspiration of late. During a wide-ranging conversation last week, a new employee, someone closer to your age than mine, gave me a few social media tips and tricks that have become enormous time savers and thus made social media less daunting for me. It was a very, very simple exchange of ideas, but it also gave me a sense of the future. Those of us in news for more than a decade have had to adapt old habits to new realities. We're still figuring out how to manage the lofty expectations every single day holds, as evidenced by our struggles to manage our time and do it all. You, on the other hand, have grown up knowing nothing but change and on a constantly changing newsroom. Many people have said your generation will figure out the key to connecting with audiences and how news will look and be delivered in the future. It's not clear there is a single answer that will take us back to the days of predictable formats and readership loyalty. Instead, the new normal is constant change and innovation, something all of you have figured out how to live with and how to adapt to. Still, all that change and innovation cannot distract us from the standards, ethics, and noble mission of journalism. We have a responsibility to provide our readers with fair, unbiased, hard-hitting news, to inform, to explain, and to expose. We must do that without taking shortcuts, but by giving everyone a chance to present their side of the story and covering all of the angles. Those who respect readers by giving them news they can trust while delivering it where and when they want to read it will be rewarded. This is why I believe that if you follow our news lead, you can and will show us a better way forward.